And so welcome everyone. We're so happy to have you here. For me, it's afternoon time, but for some, it's late at night. For others, it's still late morning. So welcome from wherever you are. I'm Mia Zamora, and I'm here with my colleagues, Lisa and Andrea, and they'll introduce themselves shortly in a second. This session is called Freedom Dreaming. We're going to embark on a little bit of storytelling in regards to our imagining liberatory education today. So Lisa, would you like to introduce yourself briefly? I guess I didn't introduce myself, but I think everybody knows who I am. I'm Mia Zamora. I'm a professor of literature and English. Typically, or my day job, as I always put it, is professor of literature and writing at Kean University, which is in New Jersey, just about 20 minutes outside of New York City. I'm a co-founder of Equity Unbound and a co-facilitator of MYFest. And this time I'm joined here with two great colleagues, Lisa and Andrea. So Lisa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, Lisa Petrides, and I am the CEO of an education nonprofit based just outside of San Francisco, California, called ISKME, the Institute for the Study of Knowledge Management and Education. And my work is really all about open access and equity to education, and specifically around open resources, open data, open science, so everything open.
And I'm Andrea Severi, and I'm coming to you from Berkeley, California, and I run my own practice. I'm an education futurist, and I work with foundations and all sorts of learning and education facing organizations and help them imagine different possible futures of what education could be. And based on those stories and images of the future, helping to design different strategies to make our kind of preferred futures become reality. And I'm really excited to be here.
I just love the title, Education Futurist. It's awesome.
And it's taken me over 15 to 20 years to get used to saying it.
I love it. I just love it. For introductions, we were hoping just, if you feel like using the chat, just, share with us your name, where you're coming from, and how you're doing today. And we have this kind of method of sharing that information, which we call Sleepless in Seattle. But basically, it's just like giving yourself an adjective and then a location. So I'll say I'm Mia, and I'm nonplussed in New Jersey. And the reason why I'm nonplussed is because about a couple hours ago, I went to my laptop, which sits where it always sits, open and normal. And it's a relatively new laptop. And it just doesn't work at all in any sense. And I've done all the things normal, informed people do, like restarting, checking the cables, whatever, holding the button down for longer, all the things, and nothing works. So I'm without my computer all of a sudden, so I'm nonplussed. So nonplussed in New Jersey. That's me. How about you guys? Heather, she's tired and she's joining us from Germany, and I'm very grateful for her being here with us. I know that sometimes the facilitation takes up other time in life, and so thank you for joining us even as a tired person, Heather. Danny is floaty in London, Canada. I like the word floaty. That's perfect. Floaty. I'm going to remember that one. I'm kind of thinking that you're just like kind of like at the surface of water, bobbing up and down or something like that in a good way. Vivian says, hi, she's disoriented in the Bay Area. Oh, I now live on Moko Okoe. I don't know if I said that right, but it sounds beautiful. A lightweight refugee.
It's It's urban. It's a rural poverty, also known as the Big Island of Hawaii. Moku o ke au. Yeah, the W's go V.
Big Island of Hawaii?
Yeah.
Or wow. A lightweight refugee from a liberal arts college that crashed and burned. Yeah. Well, that is very descriptive, and I'm taking it all in. I'm wondering how the refugee part happened, and the lightweight in front of it is intriguing to me. I don't know if you want to say more, Vivian, but thank you
Oh,
for
yeah.
introducing yourself.
I
Yeah.
can't call myself a refugee. That would be, what would the word be? Disrespectful to humanity right now. But
I see what you mean.
the
Okay.
liberal arts college crashed, and so I had to get out. Well, yeah.
I see. Okay. So there is a sort of what is it? Displacement experience, and yet you're trying to qualify that as not as traumatizing as other refugee realities. Is that what you meant? Or I mean, I'm just
Exactly.
okay.
I cannot claim refugee status. That would be distasteful.
Well, I'm really glad to meet you, or I mean, I've been
We've
with
been
you
around.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now I feel like I know more than I did before. So thank you for sharing all of
That's
that.
beautiful.
I'm
Thanks.
I'm sorry about the crashed and burned part. That's kind of like, I'm
Whatever.
thinking about, yeah, well, maybe we'll get to talk at some point today and rethink things, or just try to open things up in a positive way. Okay, so Andrea is bubbling in berserkly. I haven't heard that one in a while. She's in Berkeley, but it's berserkly. And bubbling is good. It's effervescent, right? And
Yeah.
Lisa's optimistic in Half Moon Bay. Awesome. Thank you guys.
And part of that is just because I listened late last night before I went to bed to the 1.5-minute segment of Kamala Harris saying, say it to my face, talking
Yeah,
about the
I saw that
debate.
too.
And that so energized me that I just woke up feeling optimistic this morning.
Yeah, I love that. I'm feeling optimistic as well with what impacted me was just the sense of like confidence and energy, that it just came across, and the smile. So politics is theater, and I'm aware of that very much, but whatever, like like little gleams of hope I can take in human energy, I do, and I am receptive. And I felt the same thing, Lisa. So thank you for sharing that. Makes me feel like we were sitting there together. So I guess we could move to the next slide.
All right. I just wanted to talk about, and Danny, I think you were here with us for part 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we were lucky to have her.
So, and Vivian and Heather, I don't think you were.
Heather was with us too.
Oh, Heather, you were,
yeah.
okay. Sorry about that. But so and just as a reminder about, why this journey to liberatory education, and why we're so intent on and actually talking about this and telling stories about this. And, so if education is a public good, which we really believe it is, we want to be actively participating in changing the oppressive systems and structures. And we want to be able to do that by harnessing the collective potential of community that allows all learners to become self-actualized shapers of a more just and sustainable world. As educators, and I think we're all educators on this call, our goal is to really help support and create these kinds of educational environments, whether formal or informal, that help enable this learner self-determination and to equip all education stakeholders to participate in this process. So part 1, which was the session we did 2 weeks ago, I've lost track, at MYFest, was really about imagining it. What is liberatory education? What does it look like? How could we imagine it, right? Because imagining and naming it, as we know, is really the first step in any kind of change like this. And then part 2, why we're here today, is we've imagined it, right? We can taste it, it's palpable. Now we want to tell our stories. We want to hear about our experiences of when education made us feel free, as a way, and to hear and listen to each other's stories so we can begin to get a sense of what that is and what we might do with that moving forward. Andrea, you are on mute.
Sorry. And we have a pretty straightforward storytelling process that we want to use in this session, where we're going to start with a visualization. So you all can kind of get in your mind's eye and kind of look back and reflect on your learning. We'll have a storytelling circle where we can share stories, and then some sharing, and after the sharing, some debrief and kind of thinking about what that means. So I think, yeah, Lisa, you can go ahead. We're going to jump right into the visualization. And I'd like everyone to sit up straight and kind of get comfortable in your chair. Take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it for a little bit and let it come out your mouth, and just feel all that breath come out and relax you. You can close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so or not. And I want you now to go into your mind's eye and imagine that you're scrolling through a series of images. And these images are capturing all the various learning experiences you've had in your life to date, from when you were very young to today. These images show you learning in all sorts of situations, different times, different places. They may show you learning in school or out of school. Some may capture you learning in formal learning settings. Some may be in informal learning settings. They show you learning while you're a little kid, a teenager, a young adult, and older. They show you learning in a classroom, learning at home, outside, learning at work, and in other places with different people. Now, I want you to focus on those specific images of you engaged in a learning experience that made you feel like you were set free in some way. Which learning experiences stand out? Which images show a time when you gained a new sense of agency and empowerment? Which images are you seeing there that show you learning and realizing your ability to impact the world around you? Which ones show a learning experience that strengthened your self-determination? Pick one of these images that stands out to you and tell the story of your learning experience and how it made you feel set free in some way. Think about, what were you learning and why? How were you learning? Whom were you with? What were you feeling and what impact did this have on you? And how did this learning experience change you in any way? I'd like you to take the next 5 minutes and jot down some notes to these questions, and we'll put these into the chat. And when we come back together, we'll share our stories with each other and think about what it means. And you have about 1 minute left. If you are ready, you feel free to come back on screen. Okay, and that's 5 minutes. Everyone is ready to come back on. And great. Lisa, do you want to move to the next slide? So we have a good sized group that we'll all get to share. This is nice. Was wondering if Mia, did you want to do this, or should we just start
Oh, yes,
sharing?
sure. Yeah, we can start sharing. I'm sorry, Andrea. Like
No. I know
I
you're on
didn't
your
realize.
phone. Don't worry.
Yeah. So, first of all, I just want to say that no one has to share. There's no prescription for sharing that is required. So do not feel anxious or feel required to share anything. Also, yeah, and Vivian, I see what you just put in the chat. So I don't want that to be I don't want anything to be uncomfortable for anyone. So, we can go about this any way we want. We can, just sort of engage in a chat and sort of take turns. If you don't want to have a turn, that's fine. I don't know. I'm just sort of open for whatever way you want to proceed. I was thinking, I'm surprised that I have a little story to share, but I didn't know about the story until we just did the visualization. So
I
that's
love
kind of
that.
nice.
I love
Yeah, I
that.
kind of like that too.
Oh.
I kind of, like didn't prepare in any sense, and that's the best thing because that's so. We could start. I could start. We could start in any way. Maybe just let me know. And also, yes, Heather just shared something important in the chat. We can pause the recording at any time because we have been recording and this isn't something that you might feel more comfortable. So please just let us know in the chat. You can let me know directly. I'll be paying attention to it. And just give me a signal as to what you folks might feel is more comfortable for you, because I'd like to take that signal before I just delve into a protocol.
Mia, can you remind us who has access to the recording? That might help people decide too.
Oh, this is an open, so basically once we've recorded it, what happens is it ends up on the MYFest website as a resource for the session that occurred. And that lives on the open web. If someone drilled down and found MYFest and then looked at each of the sessions and what resources were provided, sometimes just the slides are provided and there's no recording. And at other times there's the recording of the actual session. And since we are recording, then it would be included there. So the answer quite simply is it lives online, it's on the open web, it's
So
not being advertised
I'd like to
anywhere.
make a recommendation, which is that we stop recording until while we tell our stories, and then perhaps we decide to turn it back on when we want to talk about our insights from the stories.
I think that is wise, and I second that motion. And I see that Vivian is sort of giving her version of a thumbs up on that by saying something similar. So Heather, would you mind pausing the recording?
Yes.
These stories that tells us how learning is linked to freedom.
So many different angles I heard. Sometimes just playing off of what was last shared, that whole idea of unlocking something that's kind of locked within you, that's so important, right? So like releasing some blockage is a key aspect of what true learning is. It's like revelatory in a way, and it's empowering. So I guess I'll start with that and then pass the baton. There's so many good ones, right?
Yeah, and when you just said that, Mia, it made me think of how that's what lifelong learning is, right? That you continue to work through any kind of a block or an obstacle, or when there's all this, people throw around this lifelong learning as a concept, and it's without anything, I don't know, not tangible enough, but that's maybe at its core what it is.
Yeah, that it's like being open to not knowing things and then knowing anew forever is really at the core. So that means there's no like age limitation or whatever, and the way the world speaks to learning, it's like you're supposed to graduate or you're supposed to like pass the bar or whatever it is. And it's just not like that. And just when you think something's you've achieved something or you've gotten to another level, that there's another block that you some sort of thing that you need to understand or learn differently. So I love that about life, though.
Vivian, that's such an interesting comment about being suspicious of learning and freedom, except for what's beyond the institutions. Are there any, I mean, Mia's example, it was through Mia's story was about being in a formal institution, although her own realization or freedom of it was deeply her own, going outside and experiencing the sunshine and realizing what she felt.
Yeah, I think sometimes context can be like nurturing, even if that there's constraint. But there's no doubt that I was being, there was a pathway that I had to follow. But within that, the thing that made me feel the joy and the freedom was not the content and not the expectation, but the integration of the identity and the sense that what I'm learning is applicable to the outside world and my heart and what I hope for the world. And what I hope for the world, just to be explicit, is to make it better, to have it be less unjust and that kind of thing. So it was those moments where like the book learning was left behind, and the like experiential sense of what's possible was ignited. That's where the freedom part came. But what is interesting is it happened, as I admitted, in an institutional context. But I think that's a rarefied thing. And I also think that that's a problem in education, is that very rarefication like aspect of it. It's bullshit. And that much I know enough so that when I raise my own children, I'm pushing against the tradition of that notion of what it should be.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I'm just looking in the chats too, because there can be the learning, but the freedom does not necessarily, tag along with that expansion of knowledge and even skill. And I think there's something around the words integration, this integration of identity and sense of self, a reconceptualization of who you are in response to whatever that learning is. And it could be from maybe a positive or negative learning experience, but then there's this additional learning as you're processing, like that can be liberating. Like the things I was hearing were in people's stories were like re-seeing themselves in the world, and that renewed or like enhanced or new like sense of, oh, this is who I am, like that is or can be a source for freedom. Maybe also not, I don't know, but I mean, there's the interesting relationships there, I think, in those experiences. I'm trying to keep up with the chat.
I'll just jump in for a second and say that when I went to college and had the institutional expectations along with my familial, meaning my parents or my family's expectations, the deal was that I was going to become a doctor and that my dad was a doctor, and there was the weight of all of that. And in college, my intellect was my rebellion. And I found myself taking courses like liberation theology and lesbian literature. And quite frankly, my family was horrified and thinking that I was just going nuts. It would be equivalent to me doing much more radical things that were self-destructive, but they thought I was ruining my life by taking the courses I was. And so that dappled light and that sense of joy was also came with an act of resistance, even if it was like pathetically modest and kind of privileged version of resistance, which I'm just openly acknowledging with you good people, but I think that's interesting.
So we just had this, we have 2 minutes to go, and it would just be interesting, I think, to reflect a little bit about, how might these stories that we've been sharing be used to create liberatory systems and structures. I mean, if we ask people, about experiences they've had that made them feel free or set them free in a way, and we had those stories, how might they be used to create more liberatory systems and structures? Who would need to hear these stories? What could we do? Oop.
Well, I'm just looking at Danny's last comments, and I think these stories can be used for people to give them that perspective around whatever it is, if in this case around how the familial expectations and how that's a privilege, and like whatever those things are, it gives these stories could give us perspectives about others.
Mm.
And that seems like an important step in trying to create liberatory systems and structures that others can partake in, not just for ourselves.
Yeah, and perspective taking is really a critical part of, I think, inclusion and understanding and creating more open, welcoming systems and structures. Just hearting that, Mia.
Any other comments? I know we're like right at the hour.
Yeah, we are.
Well, what a lovely mini journey with wonderful people. I I tend to be fond of the smaller MyFest sessions, to be honest with you. You know, I think that more comes out, and I feel like I know Danny and Vivian better now too, which is a gift from today.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
I'll go ahead and stop the recording then.
Great.